On this Monday night, Ontario's prescription to reduce surgery wait times. The three-point plan for private clinics.
The status quo is not working.
And the apprehension over turning to for-profit care. Iran's regime pinpointing protesters through cell phone data.
They thought they were safe.
The concerns a BC company was involved and its response. Rare earth elements, Canada's goal to process minerals critical to green technology.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Ontario's Premier is promising to reduce the long waiting list for surgery by turning to private healthcare clinics. The government is going to publicly fund a range of procedures that will be performed at private clinics to ease the burden on hospitals. It's estimated 206,000 people are waiting for surgery in Ontario. Premier Ford says the plan will make it easier and faster for those people to access the help they need.
They'll be paying for their parking, but no one is going to be paying any additional cost. They'll never use their credit card. They'll always use their OHIP card. And we're going to continue doing that.
Ford says it is time to start thinking differently about the healthcare system, but there are questions about where the doctors and nurses will come from and whether this opens the door to the privatization of healthcare. In our top story tonight, Turia Izri explains the plan and the reaction.
Tens of thousands of Ontarians are stuck on a surgery waitlist getting longer by the day.
The Premier and our government have been clear. When it comes to your health, the status quo is not working.
The Ontario government's solution? Spend $18 million on expanding private clinics in the delivery of public health care.
A lot of people out there, they want to have the endless debates about who should provide care. All our government cares about is that you get the care you need quickly and safely.
The province unveiled a three-step plan to clear the backlog that's piled up in the pandemic, starting with an additional 14,000 cataract surgeries performed in private clinics. The second phase will allow more private clinics to offer CT imaging, colonoscopies, and endoscopies. The third phase will include hip and knee replacements.
My waitlist can vary between 18 to 20 months. Anything that means that we can get more operating time and therefore cut those wait lists down, I think is only beneficial to the people of Ontario.
But Ontario's 5 major healthcare unions oppose the move and want more money spent on hospitals instead.
What for-profit clinics will do is they will suction away resources from our public sector to the for-profit clinics.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sidestepped a question about whether he agreed with Ford's plan.
There are lots of things that we're working on with the provinces, and I look forward to being able to announce positive steps forward in the very near future.
The other big question is staffing. Critics of the plan question where the government will find healthcare workers to run these clinics.
We don't have the people to do that work right now, and we're going to be bleeding them out into the private healthcare system.
Colleen Flood is a public health law expert.
I think this is the wrong prescription for the problem right at the moment.
She's concerned there could be added costs and not enough safeguards.
Just recently we've had pretty horrific examples of that with long-term care, so for-profit ownership of long-term care homes, publicly funded, and unfortunately, that's where most of the carnage was.
She wants the province to focus on strengthening public services before it expands further into the private sector. Turia Izri, Global News, Ottawa.
Long waits for surgery have become the standard instead of the exception in this country. Last year, across the 10 provinces, it's estimated there was a backlog of more than 1.2 million procedures. COVID-19 had a major impact on that. Hospitals performed nearly 600,000 fewer surgeries during the first 22 months of the pandemic compared with 2019. A small Canadian telecom company is being accused of allowing Iran to use their software to spy on civilians. A report by Citizen Lab, the digital and human rights watch group, says the company was involved in conversations about setting up mobile services in Iran in 2019. The contract was canceled. However, as Mike Drolet reports, Citizen Lab's investigation highlights how Iran is able to find loopholes even when sanctions are in place in order to strengthen its repressive tactics.
Iranian activists learned the hard way how dangerous a smartphone can be. During a brutal crackdown on protests, Iranian security forces have used protesters' own cell phone data to track them down.
They thought they were safe, and then suddenly there are all these people knocking on their door and arresting them, which turns out is through the data that they have collected through different means, different apps.
In a report released Monday, the digital human rights organization Citizen Lab detailed how Iran's complete control over its mobile network gives authorities access to user information, including texts and internet usage.
What we've witnessed, as an overall, platform, surveillance and control platform that Iran has, it's extremely powerful. They do have ultimate control.
But Iran couldn't build its system without help. And through purported leaked emails from Tehran-based Ariantel, Citizen Lab says it uncovered several companies, including British Columbia-based Porta One, that were approached for their technology. In a statement through their lawyer, Porta One did not deny an unnamed sales agent engaged in talks with Ariantel in 2018. But when the deal was submitted for approval, a Portuguese company was listed on the bill of sale. An immediate investigation by senior management revealed that a Portuguese company was a front for Ariantel. Any suggestion that Porta One has supplied software which is used to intercept or surveil calls in Iran is false. Porta One says payment was returned and the contract was formally canceled in 2019. Ariantel did not respond to questions. Despite sanctions limiting its strategic partners from many countries, including Canada, Iran was successful in building out its telecom system, a fact not lost on activists who need their phones to connect but understand the risk they're taking.
And they have. I'm not saying that these haven't been effective, but there is still loopholes, and we have to actively and proactively try to cut these and close these loopholes, not to allow people with money to come and do whatever they want.
And in turn, empower Iran to spy on those who dare to disagree. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.
You can find more detail, including information about how Iran continues to evade sanctions, on our website, globalnews.ca/globalnational. Searchers in Nepal have found the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder from that plane that crashed on Sunday with 72 passengers and crew on board. Both recorders are said to be in good shape. The Yeti Airlines flight crashed as it approached the airport in the city of Pokhara. An airport spokesperson says visibility was good at the time and the pilot did not report anything untoward as he prepared to land. No one is believed to have survived. It is Nepal's deadliest plane crash in 30 years. At least 40 people are now confirmed to have died in that Russian attack on an apartment building in Dnipro, Ukraine. A memorial across the street from Saturday's deadly airstrike is growing. Neighbors lit candles and laid flowers for the victims, who include a 15-year-old dancer, a boxing coach, and 2 young mothers. Humanitarian aid is also being collected. The missile leveled part of the building's 9 stories. About 7,200 metric tons of debris have been cleared so rescuers and search dogs can scour the site. Dozens of people are still unaccounted for. Hope is fading that any survivors will be found. Many of those who did survive are badly hurt and in the hospital. Russia claims its forces did not target a residential building. It claims the devastation was triggered by Ukrainian counter missiles. The attack is the deadliest in Moscow's 3-month campaign to hit Ukrainian cities away from the front lines. And today, a shopping area in the occupied Donetsk region was pounded by shelling. Crews pulled down parts of this building so they could safely search for survivors. At least 3 people were injured in the attack. There are fears more people might be pinned under the debris. Now to a disturbing story out of the United Kingdom. A Metropolitan Police officer has admitted to being a serial rapist who preyed on women for 18 years. He's pleaded guilty to 49 offenses, including rape, false imprisonment, and indecent assault, and he's not the first cop facing charges like that. As our Europe Bureau Chief Crystal Gamansing reports, the case is further damaging public confidence in London's police force.
We commend all of the victims for their bravery in coming forward and would like to thank them for their courage in being prepared to take the stand to see justice served.
Outside the Southwark courthouse, praise for the strength of 12 women victims of David Carrick, a 48-year-old Metropolitan Police officer who used his job to gain the trust of women who he violated while using the power of his badge to keep them silent.
Carrick held a role where he was trusted with the responsibility of protecting the public. Yet over 17 years, in his private life, he did the exact opposite.
Carrick admitted to a list of offenses, including 24 rapes, 9 counts of sexual assault, and 3 counts of coercive and controlling behavior. All of his crimes are now public after he entered guilty pleas on the remaining charges against him.
He was nicknamed Dave. I want to understand how, if you can't recognize the predator across the desk from you, how you're supposed to recognize the predators in the public.
The Metropolitan Police acknowledge failings when it comes to Carrick. Officers were aware of at least 9 reports, including an allegation of domestic abuse. Carrick, however, wasn't suspended until after his arrest in 2021. The woman who reported him for rape was apparently spurred on following the murder of Sarah Everard. Everard was kidnapped, raped, and murdered in 2021 by Wayne Couzens. He was also a Met police officer. Couzens and Carrick were in the same unit. Again, there are demands for the UK's largest police force to oust unfit officers.
So I can never guarantee that there isn't another sex offender within the Metropolitan Police Service. But what I can say with absolute confidence is that we are determined and that we are doing so much to identify who those officers may be.
Carrick will be sentenced for his crimes next month. Crystal Gamansing, Global News, London.
Canada's journey to cleaner energy. Coming up, what the federal government has just done to help shift away from fossil fuels. Plus, a super reward for a man dubbed the Buffalo Blizzard Hero. In Germany, climate activists trying to stop the expansion of a coal mine were cleared out today. Officers moved in using water cannon and batons to drive out hundreds of demonstrators. They've been occupying a village that will be demolished to allow the expansion of an already huge coal mine. The activists say digging up and burning the coal will severely undermine Germany's efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The push towards clean energy means rare earth elements are being made a priority for investment and exploration, plus production and processing as part of Canada's critical minerals strategy. Today, the federal government approved an environmental assessment for a lithium mine in Quebec. As Mackenzie Gray explains, it's just one small step as Canada shifts our energy priorities.
From electric vehicles to smartphones, critical minerals are at the heart of future technological advances, and Canada is trying to become a world leader.
Canada has incredible amounts of the critical minerals and the rare earth elements that the world needs.
The feds have pledged $3.8 billion to help the sector fund exploration and to cover the cost of new applications to the government. It's speeding up the approval process that the industry says will be key to future growth.
A more focused review that looks at those aspects that are absolutely critical and unique about that project, and not looking at everything under the sun, would make for a more streamlined process.
The first step of that new plan in action today, with the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada announcing they've approved an environmental review of a lithium mine in northern Quebec. The James Bay mine, which is hoping to open in 2024, is now subject to 271 conditions around wildlife and Indigenous rights.
It will give some of our allies some confidence that we are able to, attract investment, get some approvals, move through the regulatory process. But in terms of meeting what we need to accomplish with our strategy, we need about 10 times more of these.
Canada has only one other lithium mine, which is owned by a Chinese firm that ships all of its material back to China. Beijing dominates this space, with a third of the world's nickel, over half of the lithium, and 87% of rare earth elements that has helped drive their manufacturing sector.
China has been in that space for a long time, and it could have been beneficial for us.
Ending reliance on China could be big business, with the International Energy Agency estimating demand for critical minerals could increase 6-fold by 2040. That opportunity spurred the Prime Minister to visit Asia in late 2022. Pitching allied countries that Canada could help provide raw materials to help shift away from China.
So they're not like our companies that are publicly traded, that are profit sensitive, that have to make money. China can invest for strategic reasons.
The James Bay project still has multiple approvals to go, both federally and provincially, before it can open, but this does put the Liberal promise to the test, that they would speed up the approval process in the critical mineral space. Mackenzie Gray, Global News, Ottawa.
30 years on the run. Ahead, how one of Italy's biggest crime bosses was finally caught. There was cheering on the streets of Palermo, Italy today as the country's most wanted mafia boss, Matteo Denaro, was arrested. He spent 30 years as a free man, wanted for numerous murders and convicted in absentia, including for the torture and killing of a boy. As Redmond Shannon reports, Italy's prime minister says, though this arrest is considered a victory, the war against the mafia is far from over.
Sicilians thank police as news emerges that they have finally arrested Matteo Denaro, Italy's most wanted man, picked up at a private hospital in Sicily's capital, Palermo. A boss of Cosa Nostra, the island's notorious mafia group. I was incredulous, shocked, but happy, says this local man. Denaro is being kept at a secret location and is unlikely to see freedom again. In 2002, he was convicted in absentia of being involved in crimes that include bombing attacks, the murder of 2 state prosecutors, and the torture and killing of a 12-year-old boy. One Sicilian lawmaker told Global News it is above all a symbolic day for Sicily.
I mean, the damage that this guy and these guys have done to the millions of good Sicilians all over the world, it's enormous.
Why it took 30 years to find him and how he could have been hiding in Sicily are questions authorities need to answer. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni says it is a day for Italians to celebrate, but insists the war against the mafia has not been won. Cosa Nostra isn't what it was, but organised crime remains a problem in Italy, one notoriously difficult to tackle.
So now we have to consider, and this is the basic question, what will happen? Will he cooperate with the judicial authority or not?
Judicial sources say 60-year-old Denaro was being treated for cancer. He was already sentenced to life in jail 21 years ago, so there may be little incentive left for him to reveal the remaining secrets of Cosa Nostra. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
A Buffalo man is being recognized for his life-saving efforts during December's dangerous blizzard. On Christmas Eve, mechanic Jay Whiteley helped rescue more than 20 people who were trapped in their cars. He'd already spent one night sleeping in his truck, and then he sought refuge by breaking into a nearby school. Once he was comfortable, he went back out into the storm to find others in need of shelter. Well, this weekend, the Buffalo Bills presented him with tickets to the Super Bowl as a thank you from the whole community. And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is the Peace Bridge that spans the Bow River in Calgary, Alberta. We'd love to see your Canada. Please email it to viewers@globalnational.com. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.